My name is Rachel Vallarelli, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber.
Sidearm win, scores!
Now it's one. Fidel scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson!
Welcome to Season 2 of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam, and together we're bringing you interviews from all your favorite players and coaches, as well as news and analysis from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. All right, we're here with Rachel Vallarelli, former goaltender for UMass and current goaltender for the Senior A New York Spiders. She's also had some stints in the UWLX, as well as playing for Team USA. Rachel, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
So tell us when you first started playing, as well as what made you jump in net for the first time.
Sure. So it's kind of funny. So I ended up playing when I was younger. Quick backstory. I played basketball. So I guess I'll start in order. So I played soccer, basketball, and then softball. My dad always thought that he's going to be so happy that he'll hear that I'm giving him like a little plug on the show too. Well, he like throws digs at me. He's like, you always talk about your mom. He's like, what about, what about me? I'm like, all right, Dad, like, all right, I'll talk about you. So, and he was like, okay, you're gonna be a great pitcher. Like he would like pitch balls at me all the time, like all this kind of stuff. Like we'd throw back and forth, like to the point that like my hand would just be beat red afterwards. And he's like, okay, you got such good hand-eye coordination, like all this stuff. And fast forward a little bit, I was playing AAU basketball and it was time to sign up at Holy Child for your spring sport in 7th grade. And all the softball girls, like literally everybody in my class, all like probably 35 of us signed up pretty much for softball. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And, they were like, you got to be at practice. We have 3 practices a week for middle school, or, whatever it ended up being. And I was always traveling for AAU, which, at that time, for those of you that don't know me, and obviously this is all virtual, so you have no idea what my height is. I'm 5'4" and 3/4 of an inch. And when I was younger, my goal for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to play for Gino at UConn. I'm going to be the starting center, and I'm going to be drafted first in the WNBA draft and go to the New York Liberty. And I'm going to have a phenomenal WNBA career. And my mom's like, sweetie, I think we need to find we got to find something else for you. So tying all that in, softball girls kind of giving me a little bit like, you're not going to be at practice because you got basketball. I was like, all right, one of my family, like guy friends, he ends up playing lacrosse. I was like, I bet I could be better. Like just, a little competitive kind of. I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. First day at practice, I can't even catch and throw. It was like abysmal. And I tried really hard. I just couldn't get it. And, eventually, for me, it felt like it was probably 25 minutes, but it was probably more like 3 minutes going back at how like a short fuse I had when I was younger in that regard, athletically. And I was like, is there a bigger stick? I just can't do this. I can't. Mm-hmm. And the coach was like, yeah, you could go be the goalie. Like it's bigger. And I was like, will I be able to catch and throw? She's like, well, I don't know specifically, but there's more of a pocket. So you could do that. And I was like, okay, cool. And then just crazy thinking about it, I had a like Tupperware goalie head, right? Like everybody uses the plastics, and it had leather strings. Like that's what I used in 7th grade. That's what the school had. And then finally 8th grade, like got my own equipment or whatever. But yeah, I know my parents never pushed me into sports. They were just like whatever I wanted to do kind of a thing, for me. And it just kind of took from there. But that's how I first got in cage and things like that. And I went home that day and I told my parents, I was like, Mom, guess what? She's like, what, sweetie? Like, how was practice? I was like, it was so good. Guess what? She's like, okay, what, Rachel? Like, what's going on? Okay. And I was like, I'm the goalie. She's like, you're the what? Who do I need to call? She's like, this is not okay. We're going to change this up. And I'm like, Mom, it's fine. It's good. And she's like, I don't want my baby in cage. Meanwhile, I was a soccer goalie too. So I was like, to me, I just didn't see the difference. I was like, oh, it was a soccer goalie. Lacrosse goalie's fine. Like, it'll all make sense. But that's how I first got playing. So
that's funny. That's one of the more unique – I'm a keeper too, and that's one of the more unique reasons why someone hopped in cage for the first time. It's usually like I wanted to play the whole game or whatnot, but I love that. That's great.
And then, as I got into it more, I was like, oh, man, the equipment's so cool. Like, and for me – I thought, and it's funny looking at like how much I love box and field and everything now, but I loved ice hockey, but my mom was like, I want a daughter with teeth. And, and my mom's sister, right. I kept telling her, and she like, my aunt listened to another podcast that I did, and was like, oh, you talk about that your mom wanted a daughter with teeth, but the real reason is because she didn't want to wake up at 4 a.m. to get you at the rink by 5. So that's why skating didn't, like, that's why hockey didn't happen. And my mom heard that on another one and was like, sweetie, no, I didn't want to get up earlier than I had to or anything like that. She's like, but the reality is, it's like, you couldn't skate. So adding all of that together, she's like, I'm not getting up at that time for you to not know how to, no. She's like, no.
Yeah. Well, it worked out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and like kind of continuing on your career, you went from that leather stick in 7th grade, and you managed to play pretty well and ended up at UMass for college, right? 3-year starter, crushed it your senior year, 19-2, first in the nation overall at one point. What really drew you to UMass, and how did your game really progress while you were there?
Yeah, so I went to a camp. My mom is, and see, here we go with the plug in my mom and my dad getting a little, upset too. So my mom's really good at like finding things online. I don't mean that in like a creepy way, but like for her, she's like, okay, Rachel's taking this seriously. She really wants to be a goalie. She loves it. Like I haven't, and for my parents too, like I loved doing softball. I loved doing basketball, but my parents were like, there was just something different with lacrosse and me and how it worked. And it just all kind of like, it all clicked. And so my mom's like, okay, I don't want my daughter to be the daughter that's like, going out there and playing and doesn't really know what she's doing. She's like, I'm not helping her. That's not a benefit. So my mom, was like, sweetie, would you want to go to camps over the summer? Everything was kind of like a conversation. Like, do you want to do a sleepaway? What have you? And I was like, yeah, I want to go, and learn to be a goalie. And my mom's like, okay, well, she wants to build that skill. She's got to go somewhere where they have a goalie school. And so back in the day, at the Amante camps, Lex Venechanos ran the goalie school. So ended up going there when I was going into my sophomore year, started club after my freshman year in high school too, a little bit there. And, my mom's like, okay, so this coach has won, like, I think they won 4 national championships at the time. Is that good enough? And I was like, yeah, I think that works. And my dad's like, oh my God, she's got to go there, like 4 natties. This is great. Because he was a trainer for North Dakota State. So he, like with the baseball team, when they won, football teams, they still have a lot of success, everything like that. So my dad's like, oh my God, they won national championships. Like I've been, he's like, not a player, but he's like, I've been a part of them. And they're just, he's like, oh my goodness, like that is the best. You got to go there. And, fast forward, it's all crazy. Like, this is why I really am a firm believer in like everything happens for a reason. At that camp, Lex Venechanos is there running the goalie school. Angela McMahon is the head coach at UConn. Lex is at UMass. And Kelly is obviously, and still is, at Northwestern. And, I went up to Lex and I told her, I was like, I love UMass. Because I just kept seeing everybody, committing. Like all these Northwestern girls were there. And I was like, okay, actually, this was when I was going to my junior year. And I was like, all right, so they're all committing. And I was like, but I was always told and under the impression that, you reached out to coaches, September 1st of your junior year. And so they were all like, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, wait, what? I was so confused. So I went up to the coach and I was like, I love UMass. And all I have to say is, this probably makes me not sound like a fabulous person, but I was just like, do not ask me if I know anything about the school or anything like that, because I never saw it in my life. I never saw it. And, the thing for me is I interacted with the goalie that was a goalie my senior, my freshman year, right? So she was a senior, Katie Florence, and everyone called her Flo. And she's like, I love UMass. The girls are amazing. The school is great. And the sport management program is the best in the country. And I was like, what is sport management? I was like, that is so cool. And she's like, basically it's everything about sports and it's everything about business. And, my aunt is, she ended up like retiring early and all that kind of stuff. But for her, she was high up in marketing for Intuit, which does like, not to bring up taxes, but like QuickBooks, Quicken, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, I was like, okay, business sounds cool. Like, that's awesome. And I was like, and I love sports. And for me, I always wanted to play, I'll go back to the pro basketball thing. That didn't end up happening. But obviously, right. But I was like, okay, well, I want to coach. If like that can't happen, or then afterwards, I want to go coach. So for me, I was like, all right, I can go coach with that. I could run my own business, and then just kind of, fast forward, that's kind of like where I'm at doing all that stuff now. But, looking back, it's nuts to see kind of how all that progresses and everything. And, Ange was the first person to reach out to me, September 1st, going into my junior year, first email I got, in my inbox. And, she ended up making that switch over to UMass, and Lex took it, the job up at Ohio State. But, looking at how like small of a world it is, Lex is from Yorktown and I'm from Hartsdale. And she's like, we're friends. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, we're so close. We're 30 minutes away. And I was like, oh my God. So it's just, it's nuts. Like, such a small world. So anyway, everything happens for a reason. But yeah, even when Ange switched jobs and stuff like that, I ended up going to the UConn camp. Fast forward going into my senior year, and went to the at Northwestern camp then, and she's like, "You're coming to UConn camp, right?" And I was like, and it was back when all the camps used to be like back to back to back to back.
Yeah,
so we flew home, and the camp happened the next day for the UConn camp. So all the clothes that were in the suitcase to go to Northwestern went into the washing machine, into the suitcase, went to UConn camp. Like, that's how it worked. And at that time, like, the UMass job was open. Fast forward to the end of camp, and there's a car with Massachusetts plates on in the front of parked right in front of us. And my dad's like, sees Angela get into the car, her husband's there. And my dad's like, I bet she takes the UMass job. And I was like, no, she's happy at UConn. There's no way. And all of a sudden, next day, Angela McMahon, head coach at UMass. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, it's nuts.
That's awesome. And I kind of want to go back to your UMass time. Being a goalie myself, I was super appreciative. You're younger than me, but I was super appreciative when I saw your custom helmet that you had while you're at UMass. I've been like a huge advocate for outdoor goalies to have a personalized helmet just because they're so cool. Talk about kind of what went through your head and how you chose to get a custom helmet.
Yeah. So my dad, it was kind of like a little bit of a surprise. So he ran into somebody through work, and somebody we met on like cruises we used to take. I don't know. It's just crazy. Like, again, I'll go back to the everything happens for a reason thing. I probably sound like some oracle or whatever right now. I'm trying not to be corny, I promise. And so my dad reaches out to him. I was like, all right, so my daughter is a senior at UMass, and, I'd love for her to be able to wear and commemorate, her whole career at UMass and like her career so far in a helmet. And was like, this guy's name is Tony Jarrett. And it's actually funny you bring it up because he's doing my box one right now. So I'm like all psyched and excited to see everything. But he runs a company called Masked Expressions, and he does a phenomenal job. He's down in the Carolinas, and he's like, yeah, John, like, I can get you, whatever Rachel wants, like, put her, he's like, what do you want? What do you want to do? And I walked him through everything, and he doesn't even do sketches. He's like, I just do it on the helmet, and he just goes, and he's like, I just see it all. And then I was like, it's like a true work art. So he ended up putting like things that mattered to me on there. Friends of Jacqueline is a huge organization that, that I support, and everything like that. So there was like a little pink elephant on the back, and my mom's like, why is there a pink elephant? And she's like, oh, that's for, FOJ. There's like a little Swedish crown. Like, I love Henrik Lundqvist. I know he's not, doing so fabulous right now, but he's still living the dream. He wants to continue on after his contract runs out. So, but, it had like some stuff from high school, like my high school mascot on it. And it had like, some like family initials and stuff like that. But it was just really cool to see, all of my stuff kind of like come together, and all my ideas and everything. And I just, it's so cool, like looking at that kind of stuff. Like, I always dyed sticks, and I just think it's, seeing hockey goalies. And again, I kind of go back to the equipment, right? Where all that stuff is so cool to me. And the fact that in field, I was like, okay, especially in women's too, right? Like, okay, there's only, maybe 3-4 goalies on a team. Sometimes there's more, but probably not. And it's like, okay, everybody's, they have helmets. Other other women on the team don't, at least, not yet, but a whole other conversation. Yep. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, let's get a painted helmet. And all of a sudden I was like, the first thing that popped into my head was, that's great. I need to ask Ange. Right. So I went up to her and I was like, so would I be able to wear it? And she's like, right. Yeah, that's fine. Sure. So, that was really cool. And, yeah, it's like hard to explain it, but it just so much stuff that matters to you, being able to kind of like get squished in with somebody else's creative mind is just, it's really amazing. So, right now I got some ideas and stuff out to Tony for my box helmet. And I actually found I was going on Ancestry, and quarantine, right? Just trying to
right.
pass the time, finding stuff. And my mom's like, I want to know if we're related to English royalty. She's like, I just want to know if we're related to the Queen. Okay. She's like, that's what I want to know. But I was finding like, you know, things from my grandparents and great grandparents and signed things that my grandmother has. And we actually have a journal from the Civil War from, I guess he's like a great uncle. I don't know. Again, ancestry would tell me, but I'm, you know, and it's his like trials and tribulations and stuff. Like his wife sent him a journal for the new year when he was in war, and you can actually tell if you open it. I've been like really gentle with it, but you can see like the difference. He ended up having his like arm shot off, and so you could see like when he wrote with one hand versus him writing with his other hand afterwards, and you can tell like how bad the handwriting is. Which is, it's like kind of interesting and stuff like that. But anyway, so I have all those signatures and things like that. And so the last names are going to go, and it's called purling, when you have like the helmet that you have stuff that's seen in one light, but not really seen by everybody at once. So like, it's not the main part. So my idea, and again, I'm not like the creative person, I'm into photography, but not like, you know, this much, or like I'm not overly artistic other than photography. That's a better way to describe it. And, so he'll go and he's going to purl them in the helmet in different spots and things like that. So I have like stuff like that, which is really cool. I'm so nerdy and like into, you know, like the history stuff and things like that, but family's so important to me that I'm like, how can I go more into like the stuff that matters? Or, you know, my grandfather, my great grandfather, you know, won a Purple Heart, and he ended up dragging in World War I, he was dragging men off the battlefield, and he was essentially, as he pulled guys into the bunkers, he was getting shot. And so there's like this beautiful piece of artwork that was done to commemorate anybody. I think it was anybody that got a Purple Heart at that time. I was like, this is absolutely beautiful. So there's just like ideas like that I'm hoping he can, you know, put on there and really come to life. But his work and just everything is cool. But, you know, to me, it's, you know, how can I express myself, but everything that, you know, that really matters. And I don't know, it's cool. So I'm into it, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm super jealous. During quarantine, when I dilly-dally, I literally draw hockey or box goalie helmets and just like draw on them what I would have on mine. So I feel you. That's really, really cool. So speaking of hockey, does that, since you talked about King Henrik, does that make you a Rangers fan?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you're talking to a Flyers fan, and the other guy.
Oh man,
and I'm a Caps fan, so we're all divided.
Oh no.
I was always jealous though, because you guys you had either King Henrik or Richter. Hutton has Brandon Holtby or Olaf Kolzig. There was never a Flyers goalie that I could always root for. So I was always jealous of you two, and then we would always have to play Martin Brodeur or Dom Hasek, who is my favorite goalie of all time. So I'm very jealous of you all. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, it's amazing though how, you know, we've gone through quite a few still, like with Varlamov and now, you know, Holtby, and it looks like we're going to go with Samsonov after Holtby's contract's up. But, you know, Heinrich Lundqvist still there, you know. I mean, it looks like he might be moving on next year, but that's kind of just a testament of, I guess, how dominant he's been throughout his career.
Yeah. I think it's sad too. Like everybody wants that storybook ending, and you know, that's kind of when I was younger too. Like I always believed, and I mean, I still do, like when I committed to go to UMass, I was like, okay, I want the storybook ending. I want to win 4 national championships. Like I had all these goals, and some of them I hit, and then there are other ones that, you know, I came close to or I didn't. And, you know, I think that's why I feel like even, you know, relating to like Henrik and stuff like that, or, you know, kids that lost their seasons this year, especially seniors and stuff like that, or, you know, kids in the Ivy League that can't go back and play for their teams and stuff. I mean, I know we have a lot more in our world going on right now other than, you know, lost seasons and stuff, you know, to be respectful and everything, but just kind of looking at, you know, Henrik or anybody else's career, like you want that storybook ending where, like, you know, you want to end your career where it started, or, you know, you want to walk away and all these kinds of things. And it kind of took me a little while to realize. I was like, hey, it's just the end of a chapter, right? And you can move on to that, you know. But I guess that's kind of what I think about with Henrik. And like people are like, oh, just let him go, like he's old, whatever. And for me, I was like, hell no, he's got to, like, you know what? Yeah, it's a cool story. Like he should finish out, you know, in New York. But obviously, like if he's got more in him, like, you go play somewhere else. That's awesome. But I don't know. I can go off on tangents.
No, you're fine. You're talking to two hockey fans as well, and we're excited for that to hopefully come back soon. But going off of that too, like, you talk about your career goals, and I think one of them was to be a professional lacrosse player, and you achieved that when you played with the UWLX. You started with the Baltimore Ride, and then I think you did a stint with the Boston Storm as well. Talk to us about your first experience as a pro, though, and how you kind of made the jump to the pros and were a part of that, that first women's professional league.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, after college, I just kind of went into this, I'm overly competitive and I love to play. So I think, for me, being able to still play at the really high level for women's lacrosse, right, and play professionally, and then have those aspirations. I know we haven't even really touched on box yet, right, and continuing to play. But after college, everybody goes through college and you put so much into it, right, whether it's academics, athletics, it's a mix of both. And for me, I've always been so competitive and so bought into like every aspect of the team, coaches, things of that nature. When you like somebody mentions like leaving it all out on the field or like leaving your heart there, things like that, that's quite literally like what I felt like I did. And so for me, with my first year out of school, it was really tough because for me, even when I coached, I was like, okay, I'm a volunteer, but I'm not playing, but I'd hop in and practice. And it was just it was really hard and it was really tough. And I just think like, mentally it was a whole different ball game, and I was so excited to coach, but it wasn't playing anymore and it was different. And I was like, I miss my teammates. And, it was just very weird. Like you go from, 100 to 0, in like a day, literally. I mean, we played Maryland my senior year, we lost, we're on the bus. And then all of a sudden the next day, everybody's going home. And it's like, wait, what? We're not all going to hang out and like say goodbyes. And they're like, no, my mom's picking me up. We're leaving. I'm leaving, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? It's literally over. And it just stops. And so for me, I was like, how can I fill that void? And, I loved coaching, so I poured everything into that, but I was like, I still love to play. And I had that competitive edge. And I was really lucky. New York Athletic Club gave me an opportunity to play, and I still play with them. And we'll travel and we play top college teams. And the first year I played with them, actually, we went out to USC, we flew out, we stayed at Hermosa Beach, ate, really good food down there, all that kind of stuff, played and flew home. And, that was just, to me, I was like, it was that little taste. And I was like, I can still do this. Right. And they're like, we want you to be on the team. Like you did a really good job. And to me, I was like, okay, cool. Like I still got it. I'm still here, and I received US, like, Team USA tryout invites and stuff like that. And especially after, making U19, going into my senior year in high school, being uncommitted and everything at that time too, like for me, just to be able to continue that and hopes to wear the uniform at the senior level was really huge. But, at the end of the day, even that, it's not every day. And I think that that's something, that I kind of struggled with a little bit. And jumping ahead, like box, fills that void a little bit more. And I don't want to say you grow out of it. It's kind of like, you don't miss it per se, but you just kind of find other ways to like plug the gaps and fill the holes, I guess is, a good way to describe it. And, I was lucky enough to get the opportunity and get the call to play with the Boston Storm. I believe it was the second year of the UWLX. And it was just an amazing experience to be able to play with, again, having that, I don't want to say hierarchy, because that makes it sound like, the older players and that kind of stuff. And, going back to freshmen do this and seniors get to, to do these kinds of things, but being able to play with so many people from different walks of life, played at different programs, different systems. I love that stuff. Maybe it's like, I'm so into like history and all those kinds of things, but I love to learn like, about other people and where they come from and how it kind of all comes together. So being able to play professionally with a bunch of people at, D1, D2, D3 levels. I believe we had somebody from each division on the Boston Storm that year. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. And just being able to interact with, a bunch of people that were extremely passionate and loving the game. And, whether they were running their own business or, college coaching or high school coaching or doing club stuff, like, or all of the above. It was just really cool to be able to interact with everybody. And I think just that network and building that bond again after college, because, you're not with everybody every day, but being able to kind of build out that, and continue to grow. So it was awesome. That first year. And then I ended up playing for the Baltimore Ride and, the year after that. And it was, another phenomenal experience, just being able to be with, so many talented players again, and and just the opportunities and stuff that were there. I can't say enough good things about, just about the experience to be able to put the uniform on again. And, I know it kind of sounds corny and stuff like that, but, at the end of the day, I look at those things, and people asked me previously, like, when you would work camps, you share like the fun fact or, your favorite memory of college and stuff like that. And to me, it was the first time I ever put on a UMass uniform. Right. And that's, as corny as that sounds, like, I had, not to sound like I'm talking about myself, but I guess it's a podcast, so you're supposed to, right? But it's like I had success at UMass, and I did really well, and I wish we won some national championships, but hey, like we had success as a team, and we continued that championship style of play that we had with winning conference and continuing on with the NCAAs and things like that. And people are like, oh, you're not proud of what you've accomplished. And I was like, no, I am. But to me, it's just, something that's always struck with me is being a part of something that's greater than yourself. So for me, putting on that uniform and being able to play, or, the first time I put on a UMass, like my UMass uniform, especially, I know I just said that already, but my US uniform as well. And, I remember like, I was a senior. We had Courtney Fortunato. I think she was a sophomore at the time, but for US back in 2010 to 2011, I just remember seeing my jersey hanging up in, I think it was Harvard Stadium, where we had our first official game of putting on the uniform. And I just stared at it for a while. Like I literally just stared at the uniform, and somebody came up to me and was like, put their arm around me. Was like, is everything okay? Is there something wrong with it? And I was like, no, this is just like, and it makes me kind of sound like a wacko, right? But to me, I was like, it's so special. Yeah. And, for me, like going back to kind of like the helmet and things that are important to me, right? Where I really got into sports was, watching Miracle. I know that sounds really corny, right? But for me, I was in the movie, and, I literally cried, right? And I saw it with a friend, and my mom's like, why are you crying? I was like, because this is so cool. And so from then on, I was like, whatever sport it is, I want to play for the US team. I was like, that is just an amazing experience. And so for me, like doing those tryouts for U19, getting to wear that jersey, like that kind of stuff, it meant so much. And it's kind of weird to say like that moment that I didn't even get to experience, but kind of propelled my athletic career in a sense of like, it is possible, was just kind of, cool and to see it all. But yeah, I know I just went on a little rant and stuff there, but that's
great. No, especially the U.S. Experience, I think is, everyone we talk to has gotten to wear the U.S. uniform. It's like, one of the most special moments that anyone can experience as an athlete. And that goes for, I think, any sport. But I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about those aspirations a little bit. You mentioned box, so we obviously wanted to go a deep dive into that a little bit. You've been a fan of the NLL, right? Since for a while now, you're a fan of the New York Titans back when they were around. Talk about falling in love with the box game a little bit and your goal and aspiration to be in the NLL.
Yeah. So my birthday's in April. So for my Sweet 16, my mom was like, what do you want to do? And, I was like, I want to go to a lacrosse game. And she's like, okay, great. But I'm not sure. She's like, I'm not standing out in the cold, like what game are we supposed to go to, like these kinds of things. And I remember seeing it was probably Inside Lacrosse or Lacrosse Magazine or something like that, and I was like, oh, there's indoor lacrosse. And my mom's like, it's not cold, great, okay, like this is perfect, right? And she's not a wimp by any means. She's gonna listen to this and be like, are you serious? Like she'll call whenever this comes out, like she's literally gonna be like, are you serious? Like she'll stop it and like text me and be like, really I'm at the part of this. So my family's a riot, and then of course with us all being together, a lot of togetherness right now. But it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, 16th birthday, I wanted to go to a lacrosse game, and so I was like, oh, they play at Madison Square Garden. This is so awesome, and went to go and see the New York Titans. And for me, I think it was that perfect mix of hockey and lacrosse, of like the two sports that I loved and all these things. And I don't. See, I wish I remembered exactly, because, Ginny Capicchioni was the first woman to ever play in the NLL. So I wish I could say that I knew that she did end up playing before I was 16 and stuff like that. I wish I knew when I saw the article about her and about box. I can't remember if it was before or after. I think it would have been a cooler story if it was before, but to be honest. I don't remember. So I'll be honest on that front. But, to me, I was like, I could do this. And, my mom's like, okay, but it's all men. And I was like, but I could do this. I was like, I watch hockey. I love Henrik. I was like, all these things went through my head. And I was like, and then, my mom says I can spin a little bit. Right. So I was like, okay, I see all these things. And I was like, I could do it. And it's a total possibility. And my mom's like, okay, sweetie, like, yep, sure. Okay. Went to the game. It was like the coolest thing. Some of my other lacrosse teammates went. And my best friend who played hockey, she was like, this is amazing. She's like, I love it. And then my other lacrosse friends were like, this is kind of sort of lacrosse, but not really, but it is, but it isn't, whatever. So fast forward a little bit, I really wanted to play. And so my mom was trying to look up and find stuff. She's like, okay, she's like, sweetie, I don't find anything that's for girls or where they say that girls can play. And so the and everything was up in Canada. And so the dream kind of, I don't want to say it died, but I guess it kind of went to hibernation for a little bit. I think that's the better way to phrase it. And I ended up coaching out in California at my last D1 job. And we ended up ordering used box gear to help the girls shoot better because they were already really good shooters, but we wanted to work on them placing the ball a little bit better and really learning, okay, the goalie's here taking up the space. You need to be creative in how you finish. And so we got box gear. And I was like, wait, we're getting box gear. And all of a sudden, again, wheels churned. And I was like, okay. I was like, there's an opportunity here. And it was like the old school pads that just look like giant catcher shin guards, stuff was old, small, right? And I mean, I'm tiny, so obviously if I'm saying it's small, we're really saying something here. And it was just awkward at first. And we had a Canadian on the team and she's like, you got to stand like a giant crab, just crab, put your stick here, get them out. And of course I'm wearing a white shirt and then I have the virtual background, so you can't even see my hands, right? So I just probably look like I'm chopping off limbs as I'm waving my hands around. As you can tell, I'm Italian, right? So, and she was literally telling me okay, do this, do that. And I was like, oh my God, this is a lot harder. Maybe this is just not the way, I don't know. And I ended up driving cross country back home, all this kind of stuff. And it just kind of popped into my head. I was like, you know what, let me search these box leagues out. Let me see, if this is something I could really do. And I was like, you know what? And I had a quote up my senior year at UMass where it was three things, but the last thing that resonated with it, it's a 3-part thing. And I forget who said it, but it was if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, you know what do I have to lose about reaching out to an all men's league to go and play up in Boston when I don't have box gear yet about playing? Or actually I ordered box gear because I was like, I'll do something with it. I can't even remember what went through my mind. And my mom's like, you're ordering this box gear. And it's not it's a pretty penny. Yep. Yeah. And she's like, you're just ordering it. I was like, yeah, business expense. That was where my mind went. And I was like, okay, worst case scenario is I just hop in for lessons and things and people can shoot at me. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to the Boston Box Lacrosse League. So everybody, East Coast calls it the BBLL. And it's probably not to knock, stuff down in Philly or anything like that, but it's, there's a lot of NLL guys that have come out, some NLL guys that have come out of that, or you see a lot of the really good Tufts, UMass guys. There was one night it was me and 6 UMass guys, and they're like, yo, Rachel, and I was like, what's up? It was good. But the guy got back to me, Randy Frazier and Chuck Jaffe run it, and Chuck was like, yeah, you can come up and play. And he's like, but actually, he's like, are you free this coming weekend? And it just so happened that my box order, literally the gear came Friday, and I was supposed to be in not Cambridge. I was supposed to be in, God, I travel there every Tuesday. I should know the answer. Anyway, traveling to South Shore of Boston, mm-hmm. right? North Shore of Boston, whatever, right? Hingham. There we go. Okay. People that are listening from Boston will be like, this girl is obviously not from here. Right. Travel up to Hingham. And he's like, hey, can you, he's like, this coming weekend, can you come and train with the US team? And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, it's U20s, when you get the chance to work with Ginny Capicchioni. And he's like, do you know who she is? I was like, yes, I know who she is. And he's like, so do you want to come? And I was like, you do understand I'm 25, right? Or 24, whatever I was at the time. And I was like, I'm aged out. And they're like, yeah, that's fine, but we need another goalie there. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go and I'm working with her, and she's a riot. I don't know if you guys have interacted with her before, but she's literally like, she's yelling at me. The first thing that she said, she's like, have you put this gear on before? I was like, yeah, to kind of like adjust the buckles. She's like, oh dear God, like a bunch of things I won't repeat. And, you know, and was like, okay, well, you got to squirt water and do this. And then I put on all the gear and I was like, how do I get my jersey on? And she was like, she had to dress me. And I was in front of a bunch of boys and I was like, this is, and like men, I was like, this is mortifying. And I was like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, all right, you know what, laugh it off. Like maybe they're not even paying attention. I was like, who cares? It is what it is. And, you know, one of the other things that she said to me, she's like walking past and I was like, it's really hot and all this stuff. Like it by the end, like you take it off, it weighs like 50 pounds because you're just dripping.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good way to sweat out. I'll tell you that. And she's like, you better drink water. We don't want anybody dropping today. And I was like, dropping where? Oh my God, she means on the ground. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I'm in for one. But it was just a really cool experience and stuff like that. And then afterwards, you know, Chuck and Randy were like, hell yeah, you can play in the, you know, the BBLL, like you're really good. And, I ended up going on Tuesdays in the summer and stuff like that. And, I remember probably the fifth time that I was playing in the summer at night up there, and it's so hot. There's no air circulating through like the place that you play in. And basically like I get through, we have like 10 minutes left in the game. And I was like, hold it together, Rachel, hold it together. And I'm playing phenomenal. Like the guys are like, oh my God, you shouldn't have made that save and this one and that one and whatever. And all of a sudden I literally get up and I'm like standing there and I was like waving back and forth. And they're like, you okay? And I was like, can we call the timeout? And he's like, yeah. Like the guys are like, yeah, why? And I was like, I don't feel so good. And I like open up the door and I like literally like waddle outside and I'm holding the door out, and Chuck Jaffe, running the league and stuff like that, comes up to me and he goes, did you toss your cookies yet? And I was like, oh my God. So that was like the start of the box career right there. And I was like, oh my God, it better get better, or like, I was like, this is nuts. I was like, I feel woozy and I have a 3.5 hour drive home. I was like, all right. But started there, and then because of like the BBLL and all that kind of stuff and the experience I had there, the IBLA started becoming a thing. And, you know, it started out in Colorado, and the Cambridge Nor'easters ended up winning nationals the year before. And, you know, I'm playing up in Boston, and Ryan Conwell runs the team, and he's like, do you want to be our goalie? And I was like, wait, seriously? He's like, yeah, you want to play? And so last year I ended up doing a drive to Cambridge, Mass, and up to Maine and stuff like that. So Maine was like 5.5 hours. Cambridge ends up, summer traffic for like a 6 p.m. game. It's just, I end up sometimes I like spend 6.5 hours in the car and all this kind of stuff. But so unfortunately it wasn't in the cards for this year with doing club coaching and stuff like that. But just playing with them and everybody being so accepting and stuff like that. I just, you know, at the end of the day, I was like, all right, this is a lot of fun and I really love it. And, you know, I've talked about it in other places and stuff like that, but it's really, you know, when people are accepting of, you know, I guess it's a good conversation, like, you know, for everything that we're going through now too. Right. Like, and obviously I know it's not the same in any means, but, you know, they were accepting of me, and we're like, it doesn't matter that you're a woman, Rachel, you can play. And that's what matters. Right. You know, at the end of the day, right, you're trying to win, you're trying to compete. Can Rachel make saves? And the answer was yes, you know, and is Rachel a good person to have in the locker room? Like, you know, the answer is yes, obviously, like it's a little awkward at times, whatever, but like, you know, we're good. We figured it out. Right. And I think, you know, everyone made it so easy. Like it was so much easier because everybody was accepting and they didn't care. And I mean that in the best possible way, right? Not in a rude way, but, you know, they're just like, hey, it's Rachel. She's here today. She's here to play and she's doing a great job. Like, and that's, you know, it meant a lot to me. And, you know, so leaving them and moving on to be with the Spiders and stuff like that this season, I know I'm missing some NLL stuff and everything, but, you know, it made it a really hard, you know, decision to kind of be like, you know what, I think I need to stay more local and stuff like that, even though I don't mind driving and things like that. But, yeah, last summer with Cambridge, I'll backtrack a little bit. I know I jump and, I got an email from, the NLL saying that they wanted me to come out to their PA combine. And I was like, I read it over. I think I reread the email 3 times to make sure it wasn't a joke. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I kept reading it. And I was like, okay. I was like, wait, this is legit. Like, this is actually a thing. And I was like, okay, cool. All right, we're good. And I was like, oh my God, wait, it's real? I was like, okay, all right, it is. And then probably a week or a little bit later, maybe it wasn't even that much time, I don't know, Devin Caney reaches out to me and she's like, we want to do an interview. We want to do a day in the life of Rachel. And the first thing that pops into my mind is, I don't know if I'm that interesting, like to do a whole day. I'm like, a day? But yeah, I talked to her and stuff like that. And I was like, I was really open and honest with her. I was like, look, for me, I was like, I don't want it to be a publicity stunt. And, I was like, I really appreciate, you wanting to come out and do this. And it's wonderful and really cool. And, I'm behind that. I think it's great. But at the end of the day for me, and what I've always been about is earning it and not having things given. And I was like, all right, for me, I want it to be that I'm good enough, not that here's the token female, right? Coming in and being invited and all these kinds of things. And, it's going to be up on social media and stuff like that. And she goes, no, Rachel, like you earned that tryout. They've seen you, like you did a good job. You earned that. And we want to come film a day in the life because this is really cool. And, so that was just awesome for her. And I was joking with her. I was like, so how many women do you interview? And she just started laughing hysterically. She's like, but it was so much fun. And, it cracked me up. She like drove from Philly. She's like, I didn't know it took this long to get here. I was like, I told you to take the train. Like you should take the train. And she's like, all right, and she drove and then she ended up leaving. She left my house that day, I think at like 4:30. And I was like, are you sure you don't want to stay for dinner? And she's like, oh no, we should get back. And I was like, you're going to get home at the time if you stayed for dinner versus you driving now. It's just, you're only going to spend 2 hours in the car versus 4.5. And I think it was like Labor Day weekend. They came like end of August, beginning of September. And she's like, so Labor Day weekend's in 2 days. I'm going to be good. And I was like, oh my God, Devin. Like my mom was like, call them and tell them to turn around. It was really cool. And they filmed a day in the life, like, going to my gym and stuff like that. And everything. And, again, I was like, okay, am I that interesting? But they did, a phenomenal job of editing it. And it's like, it's really cool. And something that I have and things like that. And getting to the combine, they ended up posting it the day I was supposed to drive. And I just remember I hadn't been that nervous since probably like, playing in college. I couldn't leave the house. Like I checked things over 10 times. My mom was like, okay, you're 2 hours away. Like, it's okay. I was like, I have to have extra this. And I just got brand new gear. Bodum ended up doing custom white pants and legs and stuff for me for the combine and stuff like that. And custom arms, cause I'm so tiny. I used to have to duct tape my hands. Right. So, Ginny taught me that. She's like, okay, shove it up. You have to like duct tape your wrists so that everything stays. And it ended up being like my hands would like blow up. It was just ridiculous. So like Bodum did like custom stuff and they're like, oh, well, he's like, okay, you're all right. You're tiny. All right, here we go. We'll do the arms. We'll do the legs, like, all this good stuff. So I brought like 2 sets of gear. I was bringing like all this hydration and protein stuff. Like I remember I had 2 jugs of protein in my car. My mom's like, you're going for a 2-day, it's 2 days. And I was like, I can be prepared. Like, and I remember showing up and stuff and like packing the car, like getting ready to go. And then Devin ends up posting the thing. And so I'm like just about to leave. And now I'm like, oh my God, now I need to stay. And I'd like watch it. Yeah. And, I know people say like, okay, don't check social media and stuff like that. And like, don't look at it and whatever. And I just, there's a part of me that's like, I was like, all right, you know what? I just want to see it. And I think it's so cool. Like traditionally women don't, play box lacrosse and especially at the NLL level. Obviously Ginny was the anomaly and I hope to be, the next woman to play and then hopefully that there's, it opens the door for others and everything like that. But, for me, looking at the messages, there were young kids in Canada that reached out to me telling me that they felt inspired to now become a goalie because of what I was doing. And just looking at the power of that, like, I'm not a big social media person. Like I'll go and put things up about my dogs or like we have this family of pigeons living in my aunt's flower box right now. So I'm like, okay, I'll post pictures of the pigeons or, I'm like, okay, here's like random things or I'm doing a clinic, here you go. But like, I'm never like into it so much and seeing what, Devin and her whole team did and the whole production crew, like, and how it reached and inspired so many people. And I was like, I know it's my story, but that was possible because of everything that they did. And, just the messages I got, some people reached out to me and told me that I inspired them to go to work the next day, which I just thought was like so cool and so different and, all those kinds of things. And it was just really interesting to see. And I had people reach out to me that they're, you know, and I'm not going to discuss them openly here and stuff because they, you know, talk to me privately, but, you know, that there was things that they wanted to be the first in that league as well. And he was like, I can do that because of you. And he's like, your story inspires me to do that. And, you know, and to go and to persevere and do all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm just a chick trying to play men's lacrosse. But, you know, the more I think about it, I was like, it is really inspiring. And and, you know, for me, like, I'm kind of getting like all corny and cheesy and whatever right now. But, you know, that's the stuff I look at. And then I get there, I show up to the, you know, to the rink and stuff, into the box. And one of the guys goes, yo, that's Instagram girl. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh God. And, you know, it's just funny, like looking at it, you know, too. And first couple minutes, they're like, all right, you know, as a box goalie, you know, warm-ups are really like the guys running around, you know, going around the outside by the boards and shooting on you. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm getting settled and like getting situated and stuff like that. And the guys are like, oh, she can play. And then it all just kind of changed. And, you know, I had some people say some, you know, not so nice things to me at that weekend. It was just really one person. And I just kind of, you know, shrugged off his comment and I was like, shoot better. Like I made the like shoot better, you know, because his stick broke, and so he had a couple things to say to me, and I was like, just shoot better, like, and I just, you know, waddled away. I was like, you can't really move all that fast in the box here, so you know, kind of makes for a better story, I guess. But and his friend was like, damn, okay, like, you know, but for me, I was like, all right, it is what it is. Like, I'll just take that and spin it, and yeah, does it kind of hurt? My mom was like, how dare somebody say? I was like, you know what, like, if they're that frustrated, I'm doing something right. So that's, you know, that's the way I kind of look at it. And after that, I went to the Toronto Combine and, you know, drove up there and played. And, you know, to say that the game is completely different from the US to Canada is an understatement. And, you know, I know US Boxla and there's so many leagues here like IBLA and stuff like that. But, you know, just in general, we got to figure out a way to grow the box game in the US so that we can, you know, we can have more, not just goalies, you know, but more Americans in the NLL succeed, you know, and do really well, and it be more of a natural process for them to go into the league versus, I guess more of like a jagged doesn't make sense. I'm trying to find the right word for it, but to kind of have like an easier process and stuff and growth into the league and things and
make the
transition. It's
Yeah,
there we go. We go.
I know what you mean. I want to go back a little bit too, though, like what you were saying about, you know, some person's comments. It's great that a lot of people have been supportive of it, but how do you deal with, you know, the people that are, you know, pretty much putting you down just because you are a woman playing men's lacrosse? And how have you kind of used that as your motivation to, you know, make it to the next step and, you know, and get that New York Riptide tryout that, you know, you earned because of your play in the box? It wasn't because, you know, you're a woman, you earned it because of your play at the Combine. So I guess how have you used that as motivation, and what, I guess, advice would you give to people that are maybe experiencing the same thing?
So I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, and I'll go kind of back to the helmet and stuff, like my family is super important to me, and, you know, having their support and, you know, them having my back, you know, at the end of the day, I always know, like, whether it works or it doesn't, right. My family's not going to treat me any different. And I think that that's, you know, a great thing first and foremost. And, you know, the friends and stuff that, you know, I reach out to and talk to them about, they're like, Rachel, you got this. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's about finding those people in your corner that back you and are like, no matter what, we're here for you. And, you know, I know that that's really kind of corny, but you know, for me, it's not focusing on all the people that tell you can't or the reasons that you can't. Because I think in any aspect of life, right, there's going to be people that say you can't get that job, or you shouldn't do this. I had people tell me that my business would never work, and that, or I had people telling me I would never play D1 lacrosse. I was only a mid-level D3 goalie. And I was like, you know, the way I took that was, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to aim for the #1 school in the country, Division I.
Yeah.
And, you know, the person was like, you just completely missed the statement that I was making. And I was like, but I'm taking it a different way. And so I think for me, you know, it's kind of been the same thing. And I don't, you know, I know for some people that might come across as kind of like bold and brash and maybe snotty, but for me, I was like, okay, you know, I'll hear what people have to say in that regard. And I'm like, but I don't need to take that in and absorb it and be like, yeah, you know what, they told me I can't, so I'm not going to. And I think, and I know you've had other guests on the pod kind of like talk about this stuff too, but I think, especially now being in quarantine, like everyone has had to pivot in some form of their life, right? People do in-person interviews and in-person podcasts. That's not a thing anymore, right? Me not doing in-person clinics or private lessons, right? Everything's virtual. And I had to pivot, even with my training at home, using what I have, things like that, getting creative and, kind of making things shift and change and stuff like that. And I think, at any point in life, you have to realize like being able to shift, change, pivot, and those things. And that's kind of like the way that I've gone about my mindset is, if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm like, part of me is like, okay, well, why do they think that? Right. And I'll ask, and, if I'm able to have that kind of a conversation and, can do that. And if it's not any valid points, I'm kind of like, okay, well then, just because I'm a woman has nothing to do with it. Like, what the feedback I've gotten, at least in the box level for me, is I'm a lot shorter than any other NLL goalie right now. Well, yeah, that's obvious. I'm 5'4" and 3/4 of an inch, but there are things that I can do, right, that other goalies can't do. And that's, and I don't mean to put anybody down, like all the NLL they're all phenomenal, right? Like anybody that's gotten a tryout for the pro teams, like they're all great. But for me, I was like, what makes Rachel special, and again, not in like a, look at me kind of a sense, but what do I need to focus on? And at the end of the day, it's kind of putting on those blinders and being like, these are the people that are important. These are the people that are in my corner. And these are the people I'm going to pay attention to. And if anybody else tells me that I can't, I have to sit back and say, is their point valid? Okay. If yes, maybe I need to kind of like pivot and think maybe that's not the route to go. And, okay, well, maybe this isn't working. Maybe we need to do something different. And if it's not, I have to tell myself, okay, is it something that I want to ignore? Like if it's going to bother me, do I want to ignore it, or do I want to turn it into fuel that's going to help me? And, my dad always says like, and he'll kind of joke, he'll be so happy that he's getting so much love on this one. And, and he's like, sweetie, you've always kind of been like a bull. Like if people have kind of like waved stuff in your face and been like, yeah, you can't do it or whatever. You've literally just been like, yeah, try me. And you've gone and you've worked to do it. And, so it's like conversations and stuff that, that I've had and the, more I get on in my career, and I've kind of realized, like, I look back and I'm like, people told me US was never going to happen. And yeah, you know what, I'm not on a roster right now. And, my goal is to be the, female and American version of Dylan Ward, right? Be on the US roster for box, be on the US roster for field, both as a goalie. But for me, people have been telling me I can't, people like, oh, well, you're just from Hartsdale. You didn't play youth lacrosse. You started when you were in 7th grade. You didn't play club till you were this age. You're this, that, the other, you're short, you're whatever. And people have always kind of had these things that they'd say. And I look back and I'm kind of like, all right, I've always used that as fuel. And, or in cases like I'll go back to when I was younger with softball, people are like, so you can't come to practice and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'll pivot. And, again, when you're in 7th grade, you don't know it is pivoting, right? I didn't read business book. Well, I mean, maybe I read a business book or two back then. I don't know. Like my aunt was always giving me those. But at the end of the day, it's like, you don't know what is pivoting back then, but you're like, yeah, maybe I'll go do this. And I think that's for me, like, I've always kind of kept that like childish, not in like my attitude or anything, but I guess in the way that I take things, like, okay, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, if you don't try, the answer's no. And that was the thing, like, and going back to like Ginny, when I worked with her at that US training weekend, she asked me, I was like, I asked her about the NLL and stuff like that. And I was like, I really want to do a combine. And I never expected this answer that she gave me. She's like, why? And maybe I should have, I don't know, right? That's an answer that anybody can get, right? When you ask a question, but she's like, why? And I never really put a lot of thought into it to like say it. But I guess for me, I was like, well, cause I want to like show that I can. And she's like, okay, that's great, but you got to put in all this extra stuff and you have to do all these things. And she's like, and you need to be prepared that people are going to question why you're there. And they're going to question the fact that you're a woman and that you can't do things just because, like women are different than men and whatever, like their bodies are different. Like you're going to see all these things and these people come out and tell you all this stuff. And she's like, they'll tweet about it. They'll put it out that you don't belong there. If it's not in that, it's the locker room. If it's not this, it's this. And she, it was all these different scenarios. And she's like, you got to be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, saving the ball, that's not a problem. She's like, you could train for that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, she's like, you got to be able to handle. Right. And understand that those situations can come. And, the more I thought about it, and it's the same thing my parents taught me too. And, sometimes the world treats you different because, and again, a conversation, that we're having in the times that we're in right now. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But, sometimes people treat you differently because the way you look, right. Mm-hmm. Who you like, all these things, and how you dress, right? The list can go on, right? The job you have, the car you drive, how much money you have, what school you went to, whatever, right? And people can judge you for all these things. And at the end of the day, it's like, who are you as a person? And, what can you do to change? If you don't like something that's going on, how can you change it, right? How can you make it better? And not just how can you make it better for you and for the current time, but how can you make it better for the future, right? And so I think that's probably a longer answer and more than you bargained for, but I think for me, right, that's exactly like, yeah. And that's what I look at, like with my own business and doing these things. I'm like, how can I make it better? Not just for me right now. I love coaching, but I was like, why do I coach though? Right. It's because I want to inspire the future of lacrosse. And even if somebody doesn't want to play lacrosse, right? It's like, I work with a college kid and she's never going to play lacrosse again. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, how can I still work with her, inspire her for the future? Right. And, so my whole thing is like, okay, it's just knowing that you can, and that, if some people, go and break that glass ceiling, that other people can go and do it too. And, whether you want to be the best nurse or, you want to be a doctor or, you want to be a coach or, a business owner, you want to win the lotto. I don't know what, I would like to win the lotto. That sounds nice. Right. But, but that's just kind of always been my philosophy, is how can I take it from, what I'm doing? Cause, let's face it, I'm 27 years old. I had to think about that for a second. Goalie problems, right? But I'm 27 years old, and realistically, how much longer can I play? And I think it's a really sad, conversation almost to have, right? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I know I have more life in me. Like, my goal is to play for another 10 years, but again, right, I might have to pivot, I might have to shift, and but at the end of the day, it's like, where can my legacy go? It's like, okay, it's nice that Rachel got invited to Riptide tryouts. She did all these things, but it's like, it's not I guess it's kind of the what's next conversation, but it's mm-hmm. like, how can I take everything that I've done and the experience that I've been through and help propel people to, not just, if you don't want to do what I do, that's totally fine. Like, I'm not expecting everybody to want to do that or whatever, but for what you want to do and make it relatable and translatable, and that you feel like, when I'm coaching you or whatever, that you can go and take that to whatever job you want to do or where you're going to be in 10 years. And, having those kinds of conversations and, like thoughts and stuff now, especially with having the time in quarantine, I'm like, okay, where is the legacy? And, it's a question that my assistant coach asked me my senior year. And she's like, Rachel, I think if you have to, because, I had a lot of goals and a lot of things churning up in my head. And, I've started like writing stuff down and going through that. And she's like, Rachel, she's like, I think everything that it boils down to, right? You wrote all these goals. You want to save 66% of the shots you see. You want to only let in 2 goals a game. You want all these things. She's like, I think that all boils down to, at the end of the day, what is the legacy that you want to leave here? Mm-hmm. And that really, the more that I thought about that, I was like, and that's not just UMass, but that's everything. I was like, so every day, I'm like, okay, well, what's the legacy that I'm leaving? And, some days it's like, okay, I need an off day, right? But at the end of the day, I'm like, what am I doing for others, and how can I help them be better if that's something that they want, and if it's lacrosse and it's today, and how can they get better in this instant? Great. Okay, let's fix it. But how can I help you for the future? So I think that's like a big part of my coaching and, things and my career and stuff like that, is the legacy that, I leave behind and stuff like that. Cause eventually everyone's playing days, are over in a sense at some point. Although in the ULAX league in New York City, there is a guy that's like, he's an attorney, and I think Jackie must be in his 80s, and he plays, and he took his helmet off, and I was like, and he's like, what's your name? I'm Jackie. I was like, Rachel, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh my goodness. And he was flopping, flailing, making saves.
I was like, he took his,
Yeah.
So is he does he play in the New York City league or?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I've seen him because I played in that like one spring or whatever, and I just remember seeing him. I'm like, this guy looks like he just like came out of a retirement home or whatever. But yeah, that's hilarious.
No, he's a good dude. That'll probably be like, female version, right? Me like walking out with a cane, like still playing. I don't know, but
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. No, it's inspiring to hear your thoughts and just kind of what you've gone through, because it's not easy. It's like the path you've taken is nothing's been laid out for you. You've made your own path, which I think is really, really cool. Just to hear how you've done that. And, it's cool just to see that it's not over yet too. Like you said, you still have a lot that you want to do, and we're excited to see where that goes. But, I appreciate you sharing that with us. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, but we definitely want to learn more about you, both as a lacrosse player, but also off the field as well and outside the box. So we'll hear a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk to you about that. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. Today I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Anchor. We've been using Anchor for the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast, and once it's published, they send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. They also connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast today, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today I also want to talk to you about our affiliate, Lacrosse Jewelry. Lacrosse Jewelry features a diverse line of lacrosse-inspired rings, necklaces, and bracelets so you can show your lacrosse pride and style both on and off the field. Better yet, we've teamed up with Lacrosse Jewelry to provide you with a special discount. Simply visit laxjewelry.com and use the code PROLACROSSE to save 10% on your order today. All right, so welcome back. Now it's time for our 5 and 5. So we kind of touched on a little bit about the lacrosse in your journey. We want to talk a little bit more of like the X's and O's and a little bit about, what like type of head you're wearing or what type of head you're using for your lacrosse stick and stuff like that. So the first one though for our 5 and 5 is, what are some game day superstitions or routines that you have? As a goalie, I'm guessing there's got to be a few.
Oh yeah. All right. So at UMass, I ended up having some where like, if I knew, so I'll use UConn as an example, right? So when you hit the Dunkin' Donuts, when you're going to UConn, you know that there's like maybe 10 minutes left in the drive, 10, 15. Right. So for me, I was like, okay, all right, at this point, I know that we're going to have X amount of time in the locker room. I'm very like calculated in the sense. So I was like, okay, so this is, I'm going to, if we were home right now, this is where I would need to be in the playlist when we hit the Dunkies. And then I'm going to have this much time so that when coach comes in and she does her pregame talk, I'm here. And I would have it like down to a T. It was ridiculous. People like, she would like turn around, like I'd have my music like up all the way. She's like, okay, Rachel's ready. Like, cause she knew it was just like at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot. My goalie coach in high school gave me a journal to use for my whole UMass career. And she's like, write in your, I kind of forgot about this actually. You guys brought this up for me. So wrote down kind of like your goals for the game and stuff like that. And I just remember I ended up writing in there, like for me to not really make it more about, like saves or things like that. Cause I already had that kind of going in my head, but I would write down who I'd play for. So for me, somebody that, Lexi Williams, we adopted her through the Friends of Jacqueline program. And so she, has like a brain tumor and things like that. So I was always write her down, right, as somebody I would end up playing for and those kinds of things. So like things that meant a lot to me. So music was big, all that kind of stuff. I'm a big eye black person. So obviously box is a little bit different because it's like, there's obviously no eye black. So my freshman year it kind of changed. So my freshman year, it was just like the line or the sevens. And then it kind of went to, okay, we're going to have like a little 7, like it will actually look like a 7 on one side. And then by my senior year, it ended up being that I put the eye black practically like all over my face. And it was an interesting look to say the least, but I'd have like a little compact mirror, and this makes me sound so vain. And I'd like pop out my little compact mirror, and I'd like pull my eyelid down, and I'm like putting it on my eyelids. I'd put it over my nose, like put it down, and then I'd come like up here and come all the way down. And with that and my helmet, it looked really scary. And the girls on the other team would come up to me. They're like, it would be like middle of a game. The attackers on the other side would go, damn, how long did it take you to put that on? Like, just like completely serious. And I was like, what is this girl want to talk to me about? And I was like, she should have shot here. I'm sorry, I stuffed you. Like, what's going on? And she's like, how long did it take you to put on that eye black? I really like your style. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, that was a big thing, like the eye black and stuff like that. God, I probably had so many more. I was really big on like same socks, same this, same that. Yeah. It's interesting for field. I'm very, like I was very like regimented, and then box just because it's like, okay, get out of the car. You're now in Boston, or, oh my God, I hit traffic and I'm a half hour late for the game and they're all waiting for me. And it was like, how quick can Rachel sprint in with the 50-pound bag of gear and not get stuck in the doorway and throw all her stuff on and tape her feet so she doesn't get broken toes. Like box ended up kind of just being like whatever. And it ended up working for me, which is so funny. And now when I play like box and field, just the difference of like, I'm like cool and calm with box. Like you roll in, you're like, what's up? How you doing? Like hang out with the stuff on. Or if I'm like rushed for time or late or whatever due to traffic, I'm like throwing stuff on as quick as I can. I'm like, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And then field is just very like, I don't know. It's so interesting like to see the difference and stuff. And like how like laid back I am more now with everything. And I think that's more like the box and locker room, like demeanor and stuff like that. Or it could be a guy thing before games versus a girl thing. I don't know. I haven't.
It tends to be the trend where people, I feel like as they get older in their career, they tend to have less superstitions. I don't know. That's kind of what we've noticed with talking to people, but yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Number 2 is who was your favorite lacrosse player growing up? One that you kind of idolized?
Ooh. You know, I honestly don't know. That's going to sound really kind of weird. So for me, I just kind of fell into lacrosse, playing at a private school. There was no youth lacrosse by me or anything like that. So, I think that's a really good question. I guess for me growing up, I ended up watching a lot of, by the time that I kind of figured out and I went to the Northwestern camps and stuff like that, I ended up watching old film of Morgan Lathrop in the Northwestern pump up videos and stuff that they had. And I ended up starting to kind of play like her, flopping around, making low saves and stuff like her, kind of like a hockey goalie. And the way that everyone plays box, which, you know, people have kind of drawn that. They're like, oh, Rachel, you play field, like you should play box. And then box, sometimes how you play field. Like I'd be like very stand up when I play box to start. And now I like flop and flail and butterfly and all that stuff. So I'd probably say her. But again, that kind of happened, you know, going into my senior year and realizing that stuff. And I guess doing my homework on goalies. I think from going to the camp and physically meeting goalies, I would say Katie Florence Flo, who was a senior my freshman year at UMass and was really, I would say, one of the biggest reasons, if not like the reason why I ended up, you know, kind of loving the place in the first place without even seeing it. Just kind of the person that she was. And I would say Brianne Lamonto as well. So her nickname, everyone calls her Breezy. She played at Northwestern, and then she ended up coaching me for 3 years. So it was just really cool to be able to work with somebody that you watched. And, you know, I would go see her games and stuff and go to Stony Brook and see Northwestern play and win, you know, national championships and stuff. And I'd be like the only person wearing maroon in the sea of purple, and Breezy would make a save. And I'm like, yeah, Breezy. And everybody turn around and be like, who the hell are you? Like, you're not a Northwestern person. Like, why are you here? So I guess I would go and probably say them. But, you know, to me, it just kind of like the sport kind of stuck for me. And, you know, anybody that had like a really cool story or things like that, I was always just so interested in learning and picking up things from, you know, whether it was my goalie coach, Megan, and, you know, she holds some NCAA records and she played in, you know, Quinnipiac. And for me, I was like, that's the experience I had. That's who I worked with one-on-one. So, you know, for me, that was someone that inspired me. But, you know, looking and, you know, again, I'll bring up, you know, Ginny and seeing those kinds of things and, you know, the success that, you know, Devin Wills. And I mean, there's so many players. I love field players too. But I guess as a goalie, you know, we kind of talk about the goalies and things like that. But
no, that's awesome. And then kind of going off of that, who's your favorite lacrosse personality on social media right now? So completely different from who you idolize, but who's somebody that like right now is kind of just fun on social media that you like to follow?
All right. So this is a good one. So there's so many other people too, but she just pops into mind. And so we ended up playing AU basketball together. Short story, I promise. Fast forward, now we play together for New York Athletic Club. And she always has like the funniest like captions and phrases and things that she says on Instagram. And so her name's Lauren Murray, right? So she plays in the WPLL. She's a literal riot. And, you know, I've known her family for years. Like, you know, back when I had, you know, WNBA dreams and going to play for, you know, Gino at UConn and me wearing my like little rec specs and looking like an absolute like dork on the court. You know, I've known her forever. So I just like all of her stuff is really funny. But I don't know. I'm like,
Lauren's a good one. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's funny that I didn't know you guys knew each other like growing up too. That's kind of cool to see that connection. Yeah. Going off of that one, let's see what I have here. Oh, what is your current lacrosse stick setup in terms of shaft, head, and stringing? And I'm guessing it varies too when you're playing field and indoor.
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by String King. So really pumped about that. And, you know, the company's great and stuff. And they have a really light head and everything. And that's a big thing for me is obviously with box, everything's really heavy and I want to be able to lift my arm to come up and make those saves. So obviously I want, you know, durability and all that kind of stuff. So I do use String King for both. Obviously it would be kind of an issue if I didn't, right, being sponsored. Yeah. So there's my sarcasm popping out. But I used to use the same stick for everything. And then I ended up going and playing after the 2 combines and I went to go play for New York Athletic Club and I was making saves, but every single time I'd clear the ball, like it did not go where it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. And one of my teammates was like, Rachel, I really feel like you're clearing the ball poorly to just make more saves so you look better in that end. And I was like, oh God, I was like, that's when you know it's bad. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, I obviously need to get away from the using the same like, you know, stick for the whole time. Like, you know, in Lord of the Rings where Gollum's like, my precious. Okay. Yeah. That's literally like, I'm like, my stick. I was like, it's mine. I'm going to use it for everything. Yeah. And then it just like box it would throw dimes. And then in field, it would just kind of be a little weird. And I'm like, is it me? Is it the stick? So now 2 separate, I'm like, this one's for box. And then, you know, also too, as a box goal, you have a longer shaft anyway. So I have a deep hole. I have to end up cutting it down before season and stuff. You know, before we hopefully play this summer, and everything like that. But I got to, you know, chop that down and everything and throw some, you know, pre-wrap and stuff on there, make it look good and all that good stuff. All the legal things that you can do to make the stick a little bigger and all those things. But
no, that's awesome. And then my final one is, what has been your favorite venue to play lacrosse at? That can be in box, field, throughout your career.
Oh, that's a really good one. I always loved home games at UMass. It was really special to me. I think I'm trying to think of other places I love to play. I love to play Northwestern on the water. Didn't like losing to them, I'll be completely honest, but it was always a really good game. So I'll give them that. Always a lot of fun. And even better when you didn't get the wind chill off the lake. So those 2 places. I think for box, I mean, I've had the opportunity to, you know, go and travel and play in Toronto and stuff like that too, in like the winter time and stuff like that, and play up there in their rinks and things after being drafted into the Arena Lacrosse League and stuff. So I don't know. I think for me, it's like about the place and, you know, where I've learned things and stuff like that. So I would probably say the, you know, little place in Hingham, you know, where I first like really started to play box lacrosse and stuff like that. It's to other people, it'd just be like, okay, so, you know, it's just a little facility and, you know, this, that, and the other and whatever. But to me, it's, I don't know, kind of like holds that sentimental value, I guess. So
for sure. Yep. That wraps up our lacrosse questions. Adam's got the off the field questions now.
Yep. I'm curious what your answer to this one will be, since I feel like we know a lot about you already, but what are some hobbies or activities you like doing when you're not in the box or on the field?
That's all right. So I have 4 dogs at home, so hanging out with them, running my own business too, doing like camps, clinics, all that kind of stuff. But obviously this is non-lacrosse stuff, so I will keep away from the business and that kind of side of everything too. I'm really into photography and art. Not all that fabulous at painting. I try, but and those kinds of things. but photography is really like my big thing. Love to, travel with my camera, like take pictures every day, that kind of stuff. And go and do that. I'm also big into fitness too, but I feel like that still kind of coincides with lacrosse. So I don't really know how much that counts.
No, that counts. It's different, it helps you in lacrosse, I'm sure, but it's still a hobby. That counts.
Yeah. So I would definitely say photography there.
Cool. This is kind of a lacrosse question. So in terms of a non-lacrosse athlete that you would think that would excel at the sport, who would that be?
I mean, not just because of The Last Dance and everything, but Jordan literally went and played baseball. So
Yep.
I think to me, I would definitely go with MJ. I'm trying to think of other. I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that transfer over. I mean, you look at box and you look at a lot of the NHL guys right now. I mean, so many of them played box growing up, and they literally could have played, they could have played box, so they could have gone and played hockey, and they went the hockey route, to really go play pro and stuff like that. So I definitely would probably say a lot of the hockey guys, and, especially for box. But I think, basketball has so many everything kind of goes over with that too. But if we're saying a complete different sport, that's not like, I mean, it's a ball, but not like stick and ball, I would definitely go with basketball.
Right. Cool. Number 3, favorite spot to vacation?
That's a really good one. I don't know. I drove cross country 2 years ago now. And going through like Colorado and Utah and stuff like that. So I don't really know if it was a vacation per se, because I was quite literally moving me and my things, not in a U-Haul. My aunt refused. My aunt and I did it, and she just absolutely refused. She's like, I'm not driving a truck. Like, somebody can come and pick this stuff up. I'm not doing it. But we spent like 15 or 16 days on the road, probably felt like 3 months, because it was just like the two of us in a small space. And then the more things we'd get on the way home, she's like, well, we have to make room for, like, I want to buy things. I'm like, Diane, like, is it going to fit? I'm like, I don't know. We could strap somebody to the roof of the car, I guess. Like, that's how we're going to figure it out. But going in and seeing and, stargazing and stuff in Zion and all that stuff, and just having, it was like, as my aunt said, like the experience of a lifetime, like, by her helping me move out from California, which is kind of funny. Like, she left her job in California, and then I ended up taking a job out there. So it was like a year later, like moving back. It was just kind of funny. Nice. But for her, like, it was literally something she crossed off her bucket list. And so it was really cool to be able to do that and travel. So it's not a specific spot, but again, back to like the photography stuff, I'm like, going and seeing certain places, or in Zion, the Watchman is like the typical, like, from the bridge, right? You see the mountains, you see like all the water. And I was like, we literally rolled in and we ate like a salad or something ridiculous. And I was like, okay, I need to see the sunset at the Watchman. And we went and drove and whatever. I ended up missing it because I thought that it was a different place. And she's like, it's over here. And I was like, no, it's here. I promise. And she's like, everyone's over there. But for me, I was like, it was all about like, getting the really good photographs and stuff like that. So go back to that kind of stuff. For me, I'd love to be able to go and, see like the Northern Lights and stuff. Again, probably not like a vacation kind of a thing, but just those like once in a lifetime stuff. I don't know. Me sitting and being idle is not, as you can probably tell, since I'm talking with my hands, is not really.
That works. No, that's awesome. Now, since you talked about being Italian, I'm curious what your answer to this one is. So what's your favorite meal, and you prefer to take out or cook at home?
Okay, so I'm a pescatarian. So before I stopped eating meat, it was chicken parm, and that was one of my pregame rituals too. Is I always had to have chicken parm. Mm-hmm. And now, God, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, there's an Italian restaurant by me called Bonamici in White Plains, New York, and they make this really awesome fish dinner. So for me, it's like obviously eating fish and stuff like that. That's my only, meat, per se. So it's like a lemon almond crusted branzino, which is really, really good. And then they have like sauteed spinach and stuff on the side. So that's really good. And we've been getting that probably like once a month and stuff to support, our local businesses and everything. So that's probably my favorite. My mom hates it. She like cooks me things with fake meat now because she's like, it just ruins all the recipes. She tries, she really does. Or like, she's like, anytime that we eat meat, she's like, do you want some? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, oh, this chicken's really good. Rachel, we're about to give it to the dogs. Are you sure you don't want it? And I'm like, nope, just give it to the dogs. It's fine.
That's so funny. And kind of going off of that, my last off the field one, with quarantine going on, people have been doing a lot of reading, a lot of TV binge watching, all that good stuff. What's a book you'd recommend to a teammate or friend? And since we've been doing a lot of it, what's a TV show or movie you'd recommend as well?
Ooh, okay. So book, I read it years ago, but Apollo Ono's book is really good. So he's the speed skater. So his book was really, really good. I also read Rafa's book is phenomenal. I read those years ago, but they're really good. So I feel like I can only comment on the ones that I have read. One that I have, and I just ordered, is the one from Kobe Bryant's trainer. So I haven't cracked that open yet. Probably going to be maybe now you're inspiring me, probably a tonight thing. Yeah. Go and do that. So that's one that I have. Shows. I'm rewatching NCIS from the beginning with my grandma. I've already seen it, but she's missed out on the first couple episodes. She's claimed she's seen everything. And then she's like, oh, I've never seen this one before. So we're doing that, and that'll keep us occupied for a while. But I've also been watching 24, which is really good. Keeps you occupied again. Every season is an hour in the day, so it's pretty good. I'm trying to think of other things. I don't know. I feel like I've been watching the news lately, which is just, but trying to think of like happy things and stuff like that. But that I'm like kind of corny. I read the newspaper every day, so that's probably, I should answer that's what I'm reading. But I'm born in the wrong generation, as my my aunt says.
Awesome.
It's like me and my grandma, like coffee in the morning, like reading the newspaper, and my aunt's like on her phone. She's like, really? Like, you're born in the wrong time.
Well, that wraps up our 5 and 5, Rachel. We really appreciate you coming on. Our final question that we always ask our guests is, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally? You kind of gave us a little bit of that, but what is, one piece of advice that you really want to tell some younger athletes that are looking to one day do what you're doing and play lacrosse professionally and maybe, play in the NLL?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to not give up. And, I think for me, when I was a younger athlete, I was always kind of a little bit stubborn, and, I'm happy I've grown out of that and, to be more mature and things like that. But I think being able to know like when to ask for help, or when you need assistance in an area where you want to grow. And that's totally okay. And just knowing like I can ask for help and to get better, and things like that, or whether it's school or lacrosse or anything like that. And I think just doing, what you can. I think especially with quarantine, you see a lot of people talking about like, this is the time to put in all the work and this is the time to do all these things. And, everyone has access to different things and has different things. And, I think at the end of the day, it's the same thing with like, just, who people are too, right? Everyone grows at different paces and things of that nature. So I think just being okay with knowing that progress isn't linear, right? And knowing that if you do a little bit of work and a little bit of work, you're not gonna see the results. Like I used to always be the person that was like, okay, I'm at the base level here and I want to be, well, I mean, I'm not with you in person, but my hand's all the way above the computer camera, right? So, and I wanted to get from the bottom step all the way to the top one, right? And I was just like, but how do I do that? And I wanted it so bad that I would run into the wall instead of being like, okay, the door could be 2 feet, to the right or to the left of me, but I would continually slam into the wall and be like, it's not working. It's not working. It's not working. And I think, being able to kind of take that step back and evaluate and have people in your corner and have those mentors that can help you and be like, hey, the door's right there, right? This is the way through. This is the avenue that you go. And just having, people that you can reach out to. And I think that's so cool about lacrosse is that, for the most part, like you get access to people. If, people reach out to me about box stuff or goalie stuff, and essentially through Instagram and stuff, you text, like it's essentially what it is. Like you're communicating with a young kid that wants to play, and I'm not saying that there aren't, pro basketball or, other players that do this. Cause I don't know physically, but it seems to be like the access is a little bit different, at those levels. If I reached out to King Henrik for something, I'm not saying he wouldn't get back to me, but, even though I am Swedish, but who knows, right? So for me, I'm like, it's a really awesome opportunity, and just being able to, to reach out to people and just being there. And I think asking those questions and knowing that, we're able to answer those and, kind of be a resource for anybody that needs anything, whether it's a business relationship and you want lessons, or it's just a question on what head you use and how you should have it strung, or a drill that you can do in quarantine and things like that. And being okay with making, little bits of progress every single day. So I know I gave you a lot there, but
no, but that's great. I think that's, you hit the nail on the head too with the accessibility of the players. And I think, Adam and I have found that with, this platform, is how open you guys have been to coming on our platform and talking to us. And I think it works too with, the youth athletes, that you're able to reach out to a player and they're able to give you feedback. You may not get a hold of everybody, but the accessibility is much, better in the lacrosse world, just because it is such a tight knit community. But we appreciate you coming on, Rachel. I think that's a great piece of advice. Look forward to seeing, where you end up next too. We're following you for that NLL dream. We hope you can, reach that going forward. But we'll be watching and paying attention too on your senior A career as well. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Today, I also want to talk to you about Tomahawk Shades. Tomahawk Shades have an array of both quality sunglasses and blue light glasses at a fraction of the cost of popular sunglass brands. Their blue light glasses are perfect for guys like me who spend hours looking at a computer screen when editing. They also have a great collection of sunglasses with pro athletes like Kylie Ohlmiller, Kyle Harrison, Mike Chanichuk, and Chris Hogan repping the brand. So if you want a pair of the shades the pros wear, visit TomahawkShades.com and use the code PLT20 to save 20% on your order today.